Hi everyone, my name is Carl. I want to tell you about my story and how I started to listen to music non-stop. It's not just because I like it, but a little later I realized that it's the only way to get rid of my panic attacks. What is it? I'm gonna tell you more about it now. You have to get ready to listen and watch. Who doesn't love music, right? Probably everyone does. Music is part of our mood, part of our state, and sometimes a way to speak out, to tell people about your feelings without words. I know very well that our brain can absorb information in different ways, but for me, personally, audio is the best way. When I was a kid, I always wanted to write songs and write music, but I wasn't very good at it, so I started listening. Like a lot of teenagers, I liked this and that, and for a while I listened to heavy metal. I'm talking about the genre now. There were also dubstep and techno, and then I just started listening to everything. So I'd go to the music section, one of my favorite online resources, and just listen to the actual stuff. Sometimes I would turn them speakers in my room to full volume and would just love the music. Sometimes would just fall asleep to it. My mom would come into the room and turn them off at night. She was always amazed at how I managed to fall asleep, and I felt good, very calm and comfortable. Well, then something happened in my life. This event threw me into stress, and I felt that I could not cope with my emotions. I'll tell you more about it, but a little bit later. I will start with the fact that in our school we started to work with high school students on further education in college. Various professionals came to us. They told us about their college and they asked about us. Frankly, I had no idea where I wanted to go, but since I'd always written well, I was advised to enter the journalism department. I knew little about this profession, but on the internet there were many interesting articles and films about the work of a correspondent. It seemed to me that this is a cool choice, because if this job allows you to look for yourself in the future until you find it. My choice was approved at home, so after making my choice, I went to one of the local colleges, graduating high school, and was sad and joyful at the same time. I think some of you will understand me. The first day at college itself was a little disappointing. For some reason, I thought we were going to get straight into some cool investigations and be assigned a bunch of topics. But in fact, it turned out that they were just sat there and learned professional language, etiquette, rules, how to interview, commentary, how to do live TV, what is stand-up, looping, synchronity are. In short, expectations did not meet reality. Despite this, I was not upset. Tried to learn, and the first 2 years blew by boringly, but not really noticeably. My mom called me a creative person and mentioned that often creative people see boredom in everything, even in extreme sports. I realized how this is partly true, and after a while we got an internship and I was assigned to work for a local newspaper. It was quite popular in our circles, so I gladly accepted it. In the old newsroom, where the walls had long reeked of tobacco and the telephone wires had been twisted 100 times, I got the job. They didn't coddle me. The editor, Mr. Dickens, immediately gave me an assignment to write a story about a circus that had come into town. The circus? Are they making fun of me? I thought to myself. I protested, saying that I didn't want to write about clowns because I was a journalism student and was ready to take a more serious topic. Mr. Dickens laughed. I like your attitude, kid, but I have to see how you write about what you don't like, what approach you find, and how you present the material, he told me. Puzzled, I went to the opening of the circus. I took comments from the director, the audience, took a couple of pictures, and wrote a dry, short note. Just before I was about to leave, out of the corner of my eye, I saw one of the clowns arguing with someone in the audience. It turned out that a little girl wanted to give him a balloon, and the clown aggressively burst it and yelled that he hated children, his life and his job. He was barely calmed down. Someone else apologized and then quickly showed another entertainment section. I laughed and went home. The next day, I threw the photo and the material on the table. The editor read it and then asked if there was anything interesting going on. I scratched the back of my head and shrugged my shoulders. No, a circus like a circus, boring and all, I replied. Then Mr. Dickens lit up and said that he'd been watching the news. It was all over the news about the clown being rude to a little girl, acting aggressively and talking about not liking his job. Why didn't you write about it? He asked me. I didn't know what to answer. I didn't know how to respond. I thought it was BS, so I didn't really give it much thought. You're our eyes and ears. We believe in your correspondent, but only if you do your job perfectly, he told me. Man, that was embarrassing to hear all that. I sat down in the chair across from him and said that I would do better this time, then asked him to give me another topic that was more serious and not boring. The editor looked at me with disbelief, but I promised that I could help. He gave me a second chance. You want hardcore? Okay, I'll give you hardcore, he commented. 2 hours later, I was on my way to a scene, though I wasn't alone. Had a journalist from the newsroom with me, John. He was experienced. He had worked as a crime correspondent for many years. There was a crime in our city. There was a fight with 2 people dead. To be honest, I was quite nervous, but I wasn't bored at all. Seemed that I would get the coolest material. As soon as we got out the car, I saw the yellow tape that said police, but John was so brave to walk through it and into the house and drag me after him. For the first time in my life, I was in an actual crime scene. As soon as we entered the house, I saw police officers, experts, all of them working and not paying attention to journalists with press badges. Suddenly, the smell of death hit my nose. Yes, it smells pretty bad. As soon as I turned my head, I saw a woman and a little boy. They were both lying on the floor, not breathing. At that moment, I was stunned, out of breath. The husband confessed to everything. Yes, he drank a lot, pounced on the family, and died on the spot. The mother defended her son. Yes, then the child. Scraps of John's dialogue with the police faintly reached my ears, and I felt cold sweat drip from my forehead. Carl! 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 A colleague called out to me. Huh? I asked. You okay? Would you like some water? He asked. In a state of terror, I was having a real panic attack. I was looking for the 5th corner and I didn't know where to put myself. My hands were shaking naughtily and I thought I was about to faint. John held out a glass of water, but I put it away. Continuing to breathe deeply, I went outside, sat down on the ground and pulled out my phone, turned the music to maximum volume and started breathing. Gradually, my breathing normalized and I calmed down. I texted John that I couldn't be there and went home. From then on, things went wrong for me. As soon as I turned off the music, I remembered that the woman with the baby. I was painting that picture and looking for the 5th corner. So I decided I was going to be with my music all the time now. I kept my headphones in when I slept, ate, and even when I talked to people. I turned it up to the lowest volume. I had music in the shower, when I went out with friends. My parents fought at first, but when they got used to it, they didn't really tell anyone about it. It wasn't until 2 weeks later that I went back into the newsroom. We talked to Mr. Dickens. He said that my reaction was normal and that I should have been prepared for it, and that I was in a hurry, running ahead of the horses, and so I couldn't control my emotions. I realized that this profession requires being cynical and cold-blooded, and I decided to leave the faculty of journalism. My parents were sympathetic and gave me a second chance, and I took up music. Still, now I still write it, and I'm pretty great at it. Still, before you make any decisions, you need to think, weigh everything up, and ask yourself, are you ready to face any consequences? What will be your reaction? And how you live with it? Have you ever made a hasty decision that you regretted? If you liked the video, then please leave a like and write a comment. Don't forget to subscribe.